yeah, I strongly believe that we need to teach mindfulness stuff any way, any shape or form to people in the arts because, or actually anybody, but it's so intensely connected to how you perform because the way we feel, the way we perform. If we identify ourselves with how well we play and then we judge ourselves, that's not going to be good, right? The need to sound good gets into the way of sounding good. Are we really free of self-judgment? All these techniques are just basic cognitive behavioral therapy.
Hi, you're listening to Conversations with Musicians with Leah Roseman, which I hope inspires you through the personal stories of a fascinating diversity of musical guests. Vivienne Aerts is a New York City-based Dutch singer, educator, and psychologist, for many years on the faculty of the Berklee College of Music. I've been following her inspiring creative practice for a couple of years, and I'm excited to tell you that for this episode, you'll be hearing clips from her beautiful upcoming album, Current, produced on a tiny 1951 Dutch sailboat, blending jazz, electronics, and vocal loops with water-inspired soundscapes. Her husband, the renowned pastry chef Ted Steinebach, also made a documentary film about the journey, which features several other wonderful musicians who hopped on the boat to record. I found it uplifting to get to know Vivienne's interdisciplinary approach, rooted in mindfulness, and how she got started as a student creating interesting opportunities for artists. You'll also be hearing clips from a couple of her previous projects, including the award-winning Typuhthâng, featuring 100 female musicians, which supports Congolese female cacao farmers through a partnership with Original Beans. In this age of AI, I'm inspired by Vivienne's trust and hopefulness in the need for us to engage all of our senses and the power of mobilizing micro-communities to support meaningful creative work. You can watch this video on my YouTube or listen to the podcast, and I've also linked the transcript. It's a joy to bring these inspiring episodes to you, and I do all the many jobs of research, production, and publicity. Have a look at the show notes of this episode on my website, where you'll find all the links, including different ways to support this podcast, other episodes you'll enjoy, and Vivienne's website with a pre-order link for Current. Hey Vivienne, thanks so much for joining me here today.
Thanks so much for having me. Such a pleasure.
So I do study Dutch. I have this connection with the Netherlands, but I didn't actually know that your last name meant earth.
Yes,
Arts.
it does. Arts. It means from the earth, actually. And it's the Belgian spelling
Okay.
because, yeah, that's just the history of the name.
So the name of this boat that your new album,
Yes.
Current, is de vow means the fold, as in,
Yes.
so is that
that's
meaning like
correct.
in the water, what we see?
Well, it was a joke towards origami because our friend's kid was really into origami. So we posted like, hey, anybody has a name for this boat? And there was a bunch of different names coming up. And this kid was like, yeah, the fold because of origami. And it makes a fold. If you go through the water, it does make sense. So we're like, yeah, this is a great name.
Well, thanks for sharing this album with me before it's released. I've so enjoyed listening to it.
Thank you. You're one of the first to hear it.
Well, I've been following your project for a while, and I was really excited and to see that the images of the boat. And I do understand you've also made a documentary film that'll come out as well.
Yes, it's crazy. We can call ourselves documentary makers now. It's a 28-minute short documentary. There's no talking. You just see me on a boat, and then I go around the little canals and the waters and the lakes of the Netherlands where we have our boat, starting in Leiden all the way up to Amsterdam. But there's no talking. You just see me on the boat sitting with my gear and my field recorder and then my hydrophone recording the bubbles on the water. So you just see the landscapes, and then a bass player jumps on and she records some parts, and there's a harmonica and a saxophone player also in Amsterdam. They jump on, and it was such a trip. 2 weeks on that little boat. Which is, it's mentally and physically interesting because there was no house on the boat. It's really really small boat. But the acoustics and the sounds on the water were amazing. Nothing needs the world. Silence in our hearts. Nothing needs the world.
Yeah, we can hear this. So let's talk about the first track, like right away when we dive in. So Hermine Durlot on harmonica.
Yes.
And Adinda, is it
Meertens.
Meertens on bass.
Yes.
How did a bass fit? Like, how did this work?
Well, that was actually it. Nothing else fit. Okay. It was basically, so the boat is 11 meters long. This type of boat is from 1951. It has the number in the there's a fin under it. So it's the teeniest sailboat, but it's a very common, it's called a BM 16 square meters. So people in the Netherlands really know this boat historically. And many people back in the day went on holiday with it. If they are into water. Many people, because 2/3 of the water is below sea level, so there's a lot of water in the Netherlands, and we're historically trained to work with water. So boats are very common. We got this boat during COVID, and then for $250, and Teddy, my husband, was like, well, we could just, this is a cheap holiday, right? Any hotel room is way more expensive, and it's COVID, so we don't have to bother anybody. And I'm like, yeah, right, whatever. And then, but it turned out in the night you build a little tent on top of the sail, and that becomes a little cabin for the night. But basically the space on the floor where you lay is basically the size of 2 yoga mats. That's really it. And then we have some storage in the front and the back, and also you can sort of stand in the back if you want to, because we also have a little motor. So basically that's how we picked up the bass player, Adinda Meertens, in this place called Roelofs Arendsveen, which is, I would say, 10 minutes south of the airport, Schiphol, and by car then. So she went to Roelofs Arendsveen, and we picked her up, and she stepped on the boat with her bass in the middle of it, and then Teddy, I was sitting also in the center of the boat, and Teddy was on the back deck using the motor for us to motor out to the middle of the lake, because that was the plan. We wanted to have the bass tracks recorded in the center of the lake, which is called Brasemermeer.
Okay.
I'm sorry for this. I mean, you've been to the Netherlands a lot, so you know a lot of these words that are really funnily pronounced.
Actually, I find, Dutch is very phonetic in contrast to English. It's consistent, right?
I guess so. Yeah. But there's Brasemen. There's a lot of in it.
Well, you mentioned your husband, the renowned pastry chef.
Yes.
Ted Steinebach. And
That's
you
right.
have done a bunch of multi-sensory experience design with him. So maybe we could talk about that a little bit in terms of even coming into this project.
Yeah, totally. So, we got to know each other during my studies at Berklee, but I was here in Boston. Well, now I'm in New York, but I was in Boston. He was still in the Netherlands, and it was very inconvenient. So it's over 10 years ago, and I'm like, well, let's just have fun for the summer. But basically that didn't happen. We were now married for 10.5 years. So he started off as a pastry chef. When I was done in Boston with my studies at Berklee, I wanted to move to New York, and he's like, whoa, that's cool, I want to go too. So I'm like, yeah, you better find a job. So he got a visa to work at this very famous restaurant as a pastry chef it was called 11 Madison Park. At that moment, it was the 3rd best restaurant of the world, and during his year became the best. 3 Michelin star, like super fancy, fine dining, and he would make the desserts, but also the baked goods and the praline and some of the there was a cheese board with like all these different components to it. So that was basically his job for that year. And then after that, it was like, what's next? So we decided it would be either a new city or a new restaurant. But I wanted to stay in New York because it was really cool. And I love the city and we have friends here. And so we were like, okay, well, let's just, see what it brings. And we started collaborating where we were both invited to this random party of our friends. Dennis Galanti, who was doing parties in Soho. He's like, I want you both on my party, and then you do music, and he does some food. And Teddy was like, I don't make cupcakes. You don't even have a kitchen in your loft. It was more of a business pad. And I don't really do background music too much. So I'm like, what am I? I just want to hang. It's our friend. So then we're like, what shall we do? So we're like, let's get it over with and just do it at the same time. And then it's in a sort of an event. And then afterwards we can get to hang. So we basically, he made a painting from dessert ingredients, throwing cake, cream, gel, ganache, like all these different textures, edible flowers, all on this one big table that became like Jackson Pollock-ish painting that you could eat while I make sound. I use a lot of electronics, iPads, apps. I just made this soundscape to his movement, to his painting. And that was so fun that was in 2016. So we've been doing it for 10 years now. By now, we did world's biggest pastry painting for 1,500 people in Germany. And we we're featured on Japanese TV. We were in museums. We're like, discuss, how does Rembrandt sound, or how does blue taste, or right, the conceptualization of these projects is very, very fun. So that's how the collaboration started. And then there was this chocolate brand that was like, well, you're throwing with food, but you better have sustainable, fair, honest chocolate. And this chocolate brand is good for the people, good for the nature. And they're really good quality because of the world's 50 best, I think 2/3 of them use this brand. It's called Original Beans. So we started this collaboration with Original Beans. And because of that, I decided to have one of their chocolate bars with my last album that came out in 2023, which was quite a big project. I
want to do a deep dive into that project.
Okay.
But I'm wondering, should we stick with current for a while?
Yes,
because I want to get people excited.
There's so much information.
There's so much to talk about.
I know.
But I did think it was relevant because of the multisensory thing, and Ted was involved.
Yes, we love working together. Yeah, and he's very flexible. And then after we started, desserts and songs, and then he was like, he's writing a book, a cookbook. He's writing different books, and they will come out, and it will take our times. And then it was like, yeah, let's produce this album. And he's really good with visuals, so he became the filmmaker on the boat as well as the sailor. And it's been just fun to work together.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So okay, we talked about the first track a little bit because Hermina and Adinda was there. Is there anything you want to say about that song?
Well, I was inspired by Buddhism. For the last years, I teach at Berklee. I was first involved with the Effortless Mastery Institute. I grew his brand massively for 9 years. I did basically everything for Effortless Mastery at Berklee. And then I went to Berklee like nine years. And they were like, yeah, you do you. So I developed my own courses now. I teach mindfulness related techniques for the performer. I teach, things using my psychology background, because I am a licensed psychologist as well. Yeah. I did too many studies in the Netherlands and in America. I even worked as a psychologist. So that whole Buddhism thing, I think this new album is really me, because it speaks to the mindfulness state, to the peace that we create, the acceptance, or plowing through, pushing ourselves to become the best, but in a gentle way, in a compassionate way, in like a way that we actually carry ourselves. So that really came through maybe not even purposely, but it just happened because I just went writing like crazy, and I'm like, oh, here's the songs. But I realized the word nothing is what the world needs, right? Because there's so much things going on that are worrisome, right? And people are just upset and angry, and there's all the feels. And I think what the world really needs is self-compassion, and that means stillness. That means everybody being okay with the moment, with the now. So yeah, that first song is about that mindfulness. Nothing needs the world. That's the title of the track. Yeah.
So, Vivienne, I definitely wanted to get into the psychology and the effortless mastery, but I'm going to leave that for later in the conversation. But, you know, what you're talking about, the documentary film, I would love to see it. How are people going to be able to see that?
Well, we're shopping it for festivals, and probably in the fall we hear what festivals we got selected for. There will be some private streamings, but there also will be some like small footage sprinkled all over the platforms.
Okay. And once you've done the festival circuits, I understand this takes time.
Yes, there will be showings. It's I didn't know the timelines of these festivals are.
They're long. I've heard from other filmmakers. But will you have it eventually on Vimeo as a rent to?
Yes.
Okay.
And hopefully on Amazon. I mean, we have some friends that are in film and they have it on Amazon. So at some point that I'm sure we will have it available on streamers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Just what you were talking about with mindfulness and being in the moment. Just your description of the film and the little bits of footage as you were filming it. I remember last summer seeing little clips and thinking, oh.
Yes.
Let's go back to current. So track 5, this beautiful improv, and you have a few of these on various of your albums.
There's in this new album, there's 2 improvisations. I recorded a bunch of them actually, but this was the selection I made. And then I found out that, so the basic of the track is really improvised. It's just me hitting record and then adding synth, adding layers of my voice through a looper, which I use on the iPad. It's called Loopy, and it's very fun for even people with kids. It's really Loopy. I strongly recommend, and I'm not endorsed. So I layer all these voices on top of the synthesizer, and then in the after edit, I added some birds, some sounds from a water lock, some bubbles from the hydrophone, some wind. You hear some squeaking. But there is also some effects that were actually on the boat. So at some point, I think in that first track, which is called Current, and the other track is called Waterlock. Those are the 2 improvisations. But I think in the middle of the song Gathered, you hear sort of like a ta-ta-ta-ta-ta, which is actually Teddy stepping on the floor of the boat, and then my looper effect took on it. And then I had an echo effect, and that it just came out so well. So it's real, I would say live, except for some bird sounds that I added on it to create the atmosphere. Yeah, I like those soundscapes. I do a lot of that. Even at Berklee, I do experimental. I teach the experimental improvisation ensemble that I came up with. So it's my class in which we improvise with mindfulness in mind, and we just create on the spot. And I use a lot of these different approaches and effects, because I'm really interested in soundscapes and atmospheres, and because that brings me inspiration also for songs. I love songs with lyrics too. And in the last album with the 100 female musicians and the chocolate, I added, because I got these sounds from Congo, from the female cacao farmers, and because there was this lady, Penny Taylor, from the BBC radio, and she was there because it's basically not safe to go. But she was there in 2016 interviewing these women about the cacao, and she sent me all her interviews. So I have like gigabytes of her asking interviews, and there's also extraneous sounds like birds in the jungle and motorcycles and digging in the ground. So what I decided for the last album was use these little sounds into a soundscape, and that inspired me for this boat album to also use a lot of these more edited little samples throughout the songs in Current. There's this drum pad in the last song which goes like it's in 5, and there's just a lot of squeaking of the rudders and the sails, and it's like pressure to succeed is causing rain in my closet. The wind starts blowing in my room. So much water pouring. Crack! There's this duck occasionally. So yeah, I sampled these into this drum beats, but sometimes it's just a synth pad that was originally boat sound. Yeah.
Vivienne, do you know Ineke van Doorn?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so she's actually been on this podcast twice, and I met her in person in the Netherlands.
I have not seen her in a long time, but yes.
Yeah, okay.
She's amazing.
And one question I asked her is why she doesn't write songs more in Dutch, why in English. So I'm going to ask you the same thing.
The Dutch is a really hard language to write lyrics in, for some strange way. My husband actually does write a lot of Dutch poetry, so I have considered, and there is something on the shelf that needs to be released.
Do it.
Where I actually use that lyrics. I was in Korea, and now I'm talking about it. So this is going to be my official. Now I do need to have this out at some point, maybe in a year. Where we did a free improvisation session in Korea with my friends, Ga-young and Sung Ha, this great bass player. So we had a trio where we just improvised. We did it was very experimental. And then at some point I took his Dutch poetry, and they were really into the sounds of Dutch. So it was quite funny. We had this improvisation where we used the word pannenkoeken, pancakes. It was really, really good. So yeah, I do have to look at that one. But Dutch lyrics for my songs, it didn't come to me. Mm-hmm. With English, I just start and somehow it just appears. And then I carve it into this, to make it work, or to change it, or I move it around, but with Dutch, I don't know. I should try.
Yeah.
I agree.
What were your impressions of South Korea?
Oh, I loved it. Yeah. I've been friends since my studies in 2012 with so many Korean musicians, because they all went to Berklee, and we still connected. And so one of my best friends, Ga-young, she's also on the last album. She did the arrangement and the piano for one of the songs called Concept of Falling. And she's been saying for 10 years, you should come. And then, you know how it goes. It's far, and you need to schedule. And then just when the last album came out in 2023, I called her like, we're coming. And she's like, yes. So she booked me 3 weeks of concerts, and we went everywhere, all the clubs, all the things that I could you really have to speak the language. But she arranged it all, and we had so much fun. And we love the food, and the people are so nice, and the stages are really fantastic. People sit and listen, and yeah, it was a wonderful experience. We had a blast. So hopefully we can go actually next summer. She was here to visit us just in February, so we were hanging with her, which is nice. So she's like, yeah, next year, and then we finish the experimental album. And I'm like,
great.
Okay. Yeah.
There's
so much to do if you do it yourself, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm with an orchestra, and we were there in South Korea for just a week last June.
Oh,
so it was my one and only experience.
All over or just in Seoul?
In Busan and a couple of other places. I can't remember the names. Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah, the people are so sweet. And
the listening audience, the audience's attention was really special.
I totally agree. It's so different, and yeah, it was really, really so warm. And afterwards they came up and like, maybe they don't get a lot of that. So there's this real honest need and interest for it.
One thing that struck me, I remember waiting to play, like we're on stage warming up or whatever, and this, huge hall, because it's orchestra, they weren't talking amongst themselves. Like they were just sitting so quietly waiting. And I thought, why? You can chat. Like
we're not started. Yeah. Yeah, my friend Gayong she told me that she was trying to teach her audience to applaud for a solo. So sometimes she would just like, you're gonna. She would just wave her hands and like make them applaud if you. Or she even talked about it before they would start the set. She would just tell her in Korean, her audience, like, if you really feel this is like, really good, and you can also clap in the middle of the song because in jazz that's totally fine, right? If you really feel it. And then I remember there was one person that was really feeling it, and they're like, ooh, yeah. It was so funny. They were really digging it.
There's a guy, a wonderful bansuri player in India, Milind Date, that I had on the podcast, and he was we did the interview from his home there, and he had gone to South Korea many times to improvise, and I remember he said, like, he got there and they just put him on stage with a bunch of jazz musicians and said go, and they just found common language, and he's done that a lot without he's not a jazz musician, he's a but
he'll fit in. It's totally what we do.
So let's go back to current. There's so much to talk about. Track 8, Closer, this vocal ensemble with overdubs that you created, it brings me back actually to your earlier album, Polaroid.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Which I also enjoyed. And let's talk about Closer first.
Yeah, Closer, I just had that phrase, closer, and I didn't know what else to offer, but it made sense. So then I had this synth pad that I came up with on the boat. I was just jamming on top of it, and then I'm like, oh, maybe I can expand it. And I was thinking a little bit about James Blake, how he sometimes he just has a word. Or sometimes they're just one phrase, and that's the whole song. It just evolves onto beats and stuff. And I don't feel like I'm so hip, but I'm like, wow, I got the synthesizer, and let's see what it does. And then it just morphs into stuff. And then at some point, there's a bird flying backwards, where it's just ascends from the water. So you're like, and then I flipped it around. So, and then at some point, there's a beat where I just press on the board of the wood of the boat. So I added these elements to make it a song. Yeah.
Actually, what did you do for electricity? Did you have a big battery?
We had 2 car batteries, and then we had a converter that to stabilize the power, and then I had a lot of power banks. And then basically we did some calculations on all the gear, and we were able to go 2 full days with those actually 3 days with 2 car batteries, and then we had to switch one out over and just have it charged overnight on the shore. But you know, in the Netherlands, there's coffee places everywhere, and we know a lot of people that live on the water, so we just dock, and it just give them the battery, and they just charge it for us.
Okay, cool.
But we didn't have to charge that much. The calculations were like, if you use it like for the full 24 hours, but I never used it for 24 hours. Basically, I charged my computer, and then I didn't need to plug it, because basically my Neumann mic, even though I know officially we should battery power it, but it was drawing the power from my computer, and then at some point my computer was done, so I had to recharge my computer. And so basically it was sort of a chain of
Okay.
batteries.
Yeah, no, I was just curious about the logistics.
With the album artwork, there comes a whole like list of all the things that we brought onto the boat, which is great. We figured it all out. Waterproof bags, different mics, different cables, all the things that you could hypothetically need. Sunscreen, mosquito stuff. The artwork is gonna be fun. It's gonna be a water map, and then different dots on the map where we were and what we did, and yeah.
And did you journal beyond doing the film?
Yeah, I try to journal every now and then, but it was also, I'm there stuck in the middle of the lake, supposed to record this album, but I didn't want to feel stuck to make a documentary. So when Teddy tried to interview me, hey, what you're doing? It really took me out of it. I'm like, well, I'm recording a bird, and now I hear you talk on mic. So maybe we cannot do this way, because I just want to sit here and create, you know, and then you just, I mean, yes, we had coffee, and it's not like I didn't talk to him for 2 weeks and we were stuck in a boat together. But no, we had a lot of fun, but it was really about the process. And he just captured whatever he could capture, being a fly on the deck. So that was the same for me journaling, because if I then had this whole big day, then in the night it was dark, so it gets dark rather quickly in the middle of the lake. So then I still had to write stuff down. It didn't really make sense. So it was more of an after, you know, capturing the thoughts after it. But we documented it with video, so we were able to retrace our steps, like, oh, on this day we were here, on this day we were there. And then we also had a plan of where we went throughout the days. We had to be, at some point, we had to make sure that we were in Amsterdam. So in order to be in Amsterdam in the morning, we had to pass a big waterlock. So we had to do calculations, and that means that we couldn't sleep. Also, you cannot sleep with your boat in Amsterdam. That's illegal. So you can also not sleep next to Amsterdam in the lake. You need to sleep in this really tiny harbor. So the day before we entered Amsterdam, in order to make the waterlock in time because this is a massive waterlock for really big boats. So you have to calculate the timing, and it takes a while to go in and out, depending on how many boats or what's the deal. So yeah, there's some scheduling going on during those weeks. So yeah, I did put. Yeah, there was little notes, but it was not like me writing for an hour every night. I wish.
I was just thinking, Vivienne, you know, constraints often help us be more creative. So the fact that Teddy couldn't interview you, it created something maybe more beautiful.
Yeah, he made some cool shots. It's like one shot I remember. And also, I don't know, I'm not that visual. I mean, I know aesthetics a little bit, but he has a way better eye for it. So there's this shot of like super slow panning of the landscape, and it takes forever, maybe 1.5 minutes. You see just panning, and then at some point you see just the head of the bass. and then it goes down, and it's just all one shot, and then it moves sideways. It doesn't make sense, but it's on camera. It looks so good. Yeah, just things that I would never see. The way he frames the picture was, I think is really special.
So when this episode is released, the album won't quite be out, but the pre-order link on Bandcamp will be in the show notes for people. So
yes,
I'll just remind people about that.
Yes, it'll be there.
Hi, just a really quick break from the episode. I wanted to let you know about some other episodes that I've linked directly to this one in the show notes with Sarah Caswell, Nadia Nordhaus, Ineke van Doorn, Steven Nachmanovich, Avi Kishna, and Dorothy Lawson of Ethel. In the show notes, you'll also find a link to sign up for my newsletter, where you'll get exclusive information about upcoming guests, a link for my Ko-fi page to support this project directly, where you can buy me one coffee or every month, and my podcast merchandise store with a design commission from artist Steffi Kelly. You can also review this podcast, share it with your friends, and follow on your podcast app, YouTube, and social media. All this helps spread the word. Thanks. Now, back to my conversation with Vivienne. So if we could go back to your early album, Polaroid, I was wondering, could we include a clip of Streetlights from that?
Oh, yeah, of course. It was recorded in 2011, and I published it in 12. Mm-hmm. So it was the year before I went to Berklee. So I was super young.
Yeah.
And I sound like very young. It's quirky, but what happened was I met this producer from Australia, from Perth, and he was on tour in Europe, and he went to Leiden, and I met him, and he's like, "Whoa, jazz! I love jazz!" And I always have visitors staying because I had some space, and so I remember he stayed for a month in my place. And then we would record an album.
Okay.
So he just went, "Oh, can you sing the song?" I had the songs, the lyrics and the chords, but I didn't have arrangements for that whole album. It just went on the fly. So he would go, "Oh, let's just do the rhythm," or "Let's do can you sing a bass?" And I would sing a bass. "Oh, maybe you can sing I would stack the melody. "Oh, maybe you need some harmony." So we just really produced, the two of us, for a whole month. We just go produce, and some of these songs have 50 layers.
Yeah,
it's really dense, but all arranged on the spot. Later on I thought, why didn't I write anything on paper? But because then I was like, oh, how do I perform this? And again, with my Chocolate and Women album, that was the case. How do I perform this? And then now with the Boat album, how do I perform this? But we'll figure it out. I can always go singer-songwriter style, me on the piano, but there, for this next round, there will be more electronics. But basically, because of Polaroid, that completely a cappella album, I got into looping. The Loopy app just came out.
Okay.
And I've been using it since. Yeah.
Wonderful. That's cool.
Three street lamps are shining in the back street. The full moon is shining up high in the sky. I'm looking out of the window, smelling the air of this beautiful night. Long time ago.
Actually, just back to current after this, the last track, Outside Inside Out. Mm-hmm. You talk about pressure to succeed. And also you have layered solos from the saxophonist Susanne Alt. And she was featured on your podcast, Vivi Talks, as part of your previous album, which we're going to get into.
Yes. Yeah, she's really amazing. I know her very well, and we go back quite a long time. Um, yeah, wonderful saxophone. She's also a DJ.
Yeah.
She lives in Amsterdam, originally from Germany, but she's been in the Netherlands for a long time. Yeah, so I asked her to record some solos. She has 2 songs that she solos on in this album, and we went to meet her near Beatrix Park, the canal that lays next to it in Amsterdam. And I was like, oh, I hope there's not a lot of noise because there's always cars passing by. And I mean, it's the center of Amsterdam pretty much. But it was fine. We played around with it. And I could, could still chop out some stuff if there was like a loud noise in between. But her way of recording was fascinating because she told me, oh, I don't want to talk between the takes. Just give me the place and I'll just solo and then start another take. So we did like 9 takes in a row. Boom, 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 boom. And then she's like, but she already told me around take 6 is going to be real good. And I mean, I didn't prepare her anything, right? We just met. I didn't give her sheet music. I didn't give her anything. I just presented myself with, a chord sheet and some lyrics and a track that she could play on with a click and some chords and some bass. So she it was really fresh, but I know she's amazing, so she could do it. I wouldn't offer her something that she really has to dig into. I wanted it to be free, but yeah, this track is in 5, so it's like a 3 + 2, and she just gave me so much good stuff that I could not choose. And then I was like, well, maybe I should choose because, shape up, pick your favorite solo. And it was just too hard. And but I also didn't want to make it a patchwork of all different solos. And then I was thinking, well, maybe it's unconventional anyway. Let me just choose a bunch of them. And then I highlighted all the things. And at some moments she plays like really out, like the super jazz, right? Altered stuff that doesn't go. And so I couldn't mix that one with the in stuff. So I highlighted stuff and I made sure all could work. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it came out like some sort of a sax battle. But I loved it. And then Jeremy Lucas, who did the mixing later on Shore, after I did all the editing and the production, he put her through a physical delay. So there's this Roland tape delay, and so it records on the tape and it plays back right away. So you hear like this. It's spacey stuff about it. It's really, really good. And then he puts it into space, right? So he makes sure that the one saxophone line is a little further in this distance and maybe on the right speaker or the left speaker. So he spaces it out so it's not as dense and in your face in the middle. So that did help with all these layers of
wonderful
saxophone. Yeah.
Well, so let's go. First of all, how do you pronounce the name of your previous album?
Typuhthâng. So because it's not one type of things.
Okay.
It's a lot of type of things. And everybody's confused, but it's a non-existing word that everybody says all the time. I hear everybody say, yes, one type of thing, blah, blah, blah. People say it all the time. I just wrote it out.
Okay. So you have over 100 female musicians, and I understand some of that was because you'd asked a bunch of people to send you one note.
Yes. Well, I just went with if there's 1,500 women making chocolate and this bar of chocolate goes with my album, I'm supporting their business with living wage because that's what they get for their chocolate. Then it needs to be women too on my album. So I just went with a little list of my friends that I love, their music and their playing, and that list just became longer. And then I started it with like, hey, can anybody send me one note so I can create some soundscapes? And all these notes I recycled later on and into this album as well. But I also went and asked a couple of different friends, arrangers, hey, can you arrange this your way? So my friend Zaili Zamora Gonzalez, who's a great Cuban pianist teaching in Boston at Berklee too, colleague, she made my song that was originally like ding kick ding ding. It's like straight ahead jazz standard type composition. She changed my song into Cuban bolero for big band. I could never come up with that because it's really, she's the expert on this and she really put her heart in it. And then so we had to find like the whole big band for it. Same with my friend. She used to live next door, Marielle Roberts, cellist. Maybe you know her. Amazing avant-garde, experimental. Like cellos are scared of her. I asked her to do my song. That's really a lovely melody with some chords. And then she's like, "Are you sure you want me to do it my way?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you do you. Don't worry." And she created this pad of like. And then my melody lays on top of it, which is like beyond. I thought that was just the weirdest but coolest thing ever.
Make me feel unwise. I still try to understand. Where did you find the key that can open my heart?
And then there's my friend in Sweden, she, Linnea Lundgren, she made one of my songs into a choir piece. And that's like 26 singers. So I had to get all these parts and put them all in my DAW. In Logic, I use Logic Pro, so I put them all. So yeah, the whole process of 100 women just like, it just, yeah, ended up being a lot of different layers.
Yeah, it's a really special album. So Original Beans is the company you were referring to,
right.
The chocolate company. So it's beyond fair trade. It's really a living
That's
wage.
right. Fair trade is flexible. Mm-hmm. It's a little bit above market rate. Okay. So it goes up and down. But stable, the living wage is 2.5 times higher than fair trade. And stable. Mm. Which is crazy. Yeah, so this way the farmers can actually hire somebody to help them out if it's busy season. Mm-hmm. And then they can spend the money on their kids going to school or new equipment, and they can actually grow their business.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair trade didn't grow with times.
So there's a couple of musicians who've been on my podcast who are featured, Nadia Nordhaus,
yeah,
and Sarah Caswell.
That's right.
So I think track 6, Silence, maybe they're both playing on that.
Yes, not just doing the solo. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's my favorite solo all time. She couldn't have done it. I just sent it to her and this is what she gave me back.
Yeah.
And I'm like, whoa, this is it. She's wonderful. Yeah. Same for Sarah. She's on the silence, that track as well. Yeah, wonderful. And she's a colleague at Berklee.
Yeah.
Sarah.
I'll link both their episodes in the show notes for people because it's nice with the community of musicians.
Yeah, it was actually great to talk to all these people. I still have to continue it. I did, I think, 43 episodes. It was a lot of work, but it was also very fun to talk with everybody about their stuff. Vivi Talks. Blah, 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 blah. But it's not me talking. It's basically me making them talk.
Yeah, I listened to some of that. So that podcast is linked to your website, or should we link it separately in the show notes?
Yeah, however you want to do it.
Yeah.
You can find it.
It's great when people have a really good website like you, like everything's there.
I try.
Yeah.
I recently rebranded. Somehow I noticed that my education thing there was no page, no button, no nothing on my website about my education, but I've been I've been working in Berklee for over 10 years. So recently I add a page that says education, and where I do songwriting workshop, mindfulness. I have discourse, musicians, equilibrium, and so I try to update the website.
So you're doing stuff separate from Berklee in terms of teaching.
Yeah, not too much, but it's more like project based. Yeah, so I do a workshop or a course or an intensive or one of these. I don't. Yeah, I mean, Berklee is 2 full days. It's pretty intense. It's wonderful. I do my own thing. The students are amazing. I really like working with them. And in my case, I get a lot of freedom with the teaching I do because I teach non-regular classes. I teach the courses I designed, like mindfulness, related techniques for the musician, experimental improvisation ensemble, and I have this thing called directed study, which is the everything class, and they can just take it to work on any project of their choosing. So we set goals among each other, but it's not like, at the end semester you have to know these 20 songs. Not at all. It's like every week it could be different. I'm working on this album, let's just, or I'm trying to write, or I'm trying to do better improvisation. And it could be also any instrument. So I have this semester, I have a mandolin player, I have a banjo player, I have a saxophone player and a pianist. And just for 1 hour private, and we just work on whatever. And then, I think I see 80 students a week. In different group sizes, doing all these different classes. So outside of Berklee, I do not a lot of teaching, just like special workshops, like, we're gonna do a 3-day songwriting intensive, sign up, or let's do like a master class on how to. I do more of these.
What's the commute like from New York to Boston?
It's 4 hours, so it's 8 hours. I go with the car because of the schedules of the trains. So we drive on Tuesday and then back on Wednesday night. So it's 2 full days. I stay over one night. I don't teach in the summer, so I get to travel, which is nice.
Okay.
The commute is, I don't know, it's 4 hours in, 4 hours out.
Yeah. Okay. And for this type of thing album, you did do some crowdsourcing for funding.
Yes. Yeah, I like to do pre-order campaigns because it's not like, I'm a poor artist, but if I know that I already have an audience for it, then it makes sense to do it. And so with Typuhthâng, I knew it was going to be expensive because paying 100 women, having these, the artwork was really extensive too. And I have a publicist, and the whole thing was quite expensive. So, the pre-order in combination through Indiegogo, in combination with the grants I got from the Netherlands American Foundation, the SENA Production Fund, which is Dutch, like the Dutch ASCAP, I would say. They have a grant to produce some, and then I had some private investors. And then the same for Current. I had some pre-order still. I just send it out to my newsletter and then give it a little push. Yeah, it really helps because how else? I need to know I'm selling these albums in advance.
I was just curious because also you're mentoring younger musicians, or maybe not necessarily younger, but at the beginning of their careers. So it seems to me you're really community-based, really collaborative, and
I think that's the only way.
And you developed that so early in your career as well.
Well, I needed to go to Berklee, right? At some point, I grew up in the Netherlands, and then I did my high school, and then after high school, I did 2 studies at the same time. I went to the conservatory as well as to university. So at the conservatory, I was doing singing and then conducting. And then at the university, I was doing my bachelor and master's psychology. And during these studies, I organized festivals. I worked for the university. I played with my little band everywhere. I was very active in organizing stuff. I worked for 3 years as just a side gig for the National Railroad, organizing events, festivals in their little waiting rooms, these glass things on the platforms. They had them available for my festival. For 3 years I worked for the National. I did all these things, and then at some point I'm like, wow, I got this Berklee scholarship in Italy. Berklee goes to Italy to do a workshop, and I just had a lot of fun. And after that workshop, they gave me a scholarship, and I was like 20 or so, and super excited. But I'm like, yo, Berklee, thank you for the scholarship, but I still have to finish psychology and conservatory. Can I delay it? And they're like, oh yeah, just finish it. So after I finished my studies, and I worked for a couple of years as a psychologist in the daytime and as a conductor in the evenings, as a performer in the weekends, I called Berklee, can I still go? They're like, yeah. So then I was like, oh, now I actually need to pay for it. Okay, because the scholarship wasn't full. So I had the Berklee scholarship. I got the Fulbright scholarship, which I never heard about, but somebody told me, whoa, that's really cool, you got this. And then I Googled, and then it was actually cool. And then I made so many Fulbright friends with this. I totally recommend checking out the program. It's really wonderful. Senator Fulbright wanted world peace. And by making a scholarship that goes from America to the world and from the world to America, you create intercultural understanding and exchange where people, are less prone to fight because they know the other, whoever the other is. It's not us versus them. It's just we're all people, right? So I got all these scholarships, and then, I went into my community. Yo, I need to go to Berklee, buy my album. I sold a lot of albums when I was 20. I think I sold 5,000 albums by hand. It was not even in stores. So I was able to go to Berklee because of that. And then later on, I'm like, yo, my album Polaroid is coming out. So people just bought it. And then with the women, I'm like, this is going to be an expense because I want to pay everybody. It's been COVID. We need to do that. I just reached out to the community and said, I'm doing this fun thing. You want to tag along or be part of it, or in some way.
Just to back up a little bit, this railway festival thing. So it was music on the
well, actually all things. I did not even perform. I was organizing it. There was it depends on the station. There was Amsterdam, Eindhoven, Groningen, all the different stations, and they all had different number of waiting cabins. So I would book like a poet or a dancer or some theater or some cabaret, all different little half-hour slots, and people would move from half hour to another platform to just hop around through that happened because I initiated this festival in 2008 which was called Stukafest, Student Kamer Room Festival, where there was I think 20 student rooms that were there, a little sofa sound type of before sofa. This was way before sofa sounds. So it was living room concerts in dorms. So in order to create that, it was a national thing, I believe, and I was appointed for Rotterdam, but then they found out I lived in Leiden, and they're like, you need to do Leiden instead. as a board. And I'm like, well, I don't have a board. So I went to one of the university opening academic year or something, and I met two girls that wanted to join my board. So now we had three girls, and then we're like, oh, we need a guy to be part of a board. And we're like super young, right? 2008, so that's like 20 years ago, right? Is that right? Yeah, 20 years ago, super young. And oh, we need a guy because guys can carry a lot of stuff, right? We have three girls in the so. And then how are we going to promote this festival? We're just going to, because the logo was a sock, because you have to clean up your dorm room if then people come and engage in a concert. So we basically decided to collect 2,000 socks. So we knocked on all the dorm rooms in the whole city, which is quite extensive. It's 120,000 people live in the city. It's a really big university town. And so we knocked on all the doors, all the fraternities. Hey, do you have like dirty old socks behind your... And then we collected 2,000 socks. We actually counted. And I had a visual artist from Amsterdam come into Leiden to make the biggest sock ever in the middle of the town. And that got national press, which was kind of dumb and crazy.
From the socks? Okay.
Yeah. She made it, like, she sort of knitted all the socks together into the most massive sock. And we hanged it next to the church in the city center. It was hilarious. And the national news picked up on it. And our festival was known, right? It was the best PR campaign ever. And most funny, too. So because of that, it was very successful, this festival, for the students. And then the National Railroad was like, oh, hey, we have this thing in the train stations. You want to do it? And my board was like, oh, we're busy studying. And I'm like, yeah, I'll do it. I love multitasking and I don't need a lot of sleep. So I love all these things. But yeah, I recently remembered that because I was telling my students at Berklee, you can just organize your own stuff. Spotify doesn't pay. And even if they would, right? I mean, they pay other stuff and we can discuss if that's good or bad, but I don't think we need to support, if your business is built on musicians, then probably you want to pay musicians to make this, right? You can invest different ways, but it would make sense for a company like Spotify to reinvest in music. But hey, I'm not a boss. But basically, if they would even reinvest, the model would still not cater everybody fairly, because we couldn't make a living if we spread it out over all the creators in the world. So there wouldn't be enough money anyway. So I think the only solution is to create your own bubble, create your own audience, and think of platforms like Bandcamp or platforms like there's this new thing called Subvert. It looks like Bandcamp, but then it's a co-op.
Okay.
So everybody's technically owner, and because that's what a co-op is, and there's this forum with it, and have your own email list. So everybody that you meet that likes what you do or that you connect with, support them and they support you. It's micro communities are, I think, the only way to go now. You organize, if they don't book you, you organize your own festival. You rent out your own. I've done that a lot. We did like 20 course dessert dinners. It was 10 desserts, right? 10 desserts and 10 songs. And then 200 people signed up. So we had to make 2,000 desserts. But, we'll in that case, we'll deal with it. We hire a person to help out. But we rented our own venue in the Netherlands, and because who's going to do that for us? Nobody, right? And we'll just make it fun. I think that's the only way to go now. Just create your own event, however that makes sense. You can find a friend, and then together they do the business part, and then you do the music part. You don't have to do it all alone. I always have people around me, but that's the only way to go. Yeah, even with other styles of music, it's not. I mean, in jazz or in classical, it's everywhere. It's happening everywhere.
Yeah,
But there's people that want real experiences, right? Because music can change. Without music or the arts, life wouldn't be worth so we need it, and people need to have experience that are real. And I think that's why AI and all that stuff is not gonna replace us. I'm not so worried because people are craving for the real stuff.
Yeah.
Because yeah.
So speaking of multi-sensory experiences, your album launch in New York Harbor is on a boat.
Yeah, it had to be, right? Yeah, it's coming up June 28th. I got a very big boat this time because my boat in the Netherlands is tiny. We'll do that. We will do that in August in the Netherlands, where we have the tiny boat be the center of the collection of massive boat gathering where they can all sit on their respective boats and watch me on my little boat. But in New York, that was because our Dutch boat is not seaworthy. It does have a fin, but no way it can go to sea. There's like, it's not high enough. It's just for lakes and sailing and canals. So yeah, I needed to have a big boat. So a friend of mine, I don't know, Joe Cohn, the son of Al Cohn, this saxophone, historic Al Cohn, played with Stan Getz, and so it's sort of this like history. So Joe Cohn is a great friend of mine, guitar player, and he, we were joking about it because his babysitter was Billie Holiday. Right, so he grew up among like craziness for sure, and then so he played on this boat many times. He's been on this boat as a just entertainment. They do jazz cruise in the nights in the summers, so I've seen him on the boat, and all of a sudden I'm like, maybe this boat could host my event too, like it's a special one-off because I'm not gonna do the jazz standards they generally do, so it should be a special event, but I cannot rent the boat, right? Because that's yeah, it's a clipper. It's one of these big historic boats. So I went to the guy from the boat, Tom, and he's like, "Wow, Joe Cohn, yeah, Joe Cohn was my babysitter." And I'm like, "Wow, so Joe was your babysitter, and then Billie Holiday was Joe's." Yeah, that was funny. And then he's like, "Yeah, let's discuss. Let's have this. Let's have an event."
Okay, wonderful.
And then yesterday, actually, I talked to another boat owner. Actually, he's the owner of the museum of the USS Constellation in Baltimore, and we confirmed it for July. So we're gonna do 2 big boats concerts in the summer, which I'm excited about.
Wonderful. Are you going to have other musicians with you or solo?
It's gonna be solo.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm still considering a horn player, but I think it needs to be solo with all the. Yeah, I want to have this challenge to work it out because there's so much ambient sounds on the album. I need to figure out a way to do it live.
Okay.
There might be a horn player doing solo stuff. There might be a bass player, different settings. But yeah, it'd be a good challenge to figure out how to do this live.
Okay.
That's the goal. I'm setting myself.
Yeah, I was curious about, Dutch and American culture. You've lived in New York for so long, but it seems to me a lot of your perspective is Dutch. You don't think so?
I'm not sure. I'm really weird for the Dutch, I think. In the Dutch, there's a history of Calvinism. And because of that, they want you to be normal. They want you to be safe and maybe a little conservative. They're very liberal, right? You do you. In that sense, it's really open, and that's what's been celebrated a lot, right? The Dutch, everything is possible in the Dutch. That's why the Pilgrim Fathers fled. Like, it was way too crazy in the Netherlands. Let's just go across they were in England, and then they went to actually Leiden, my hometown, and then they're like, oh no, they're crazy. That's why the Pilgrim Fathers went to America back in the day. They're way too crazy. But for me, I always had to explain. I do 2 studies. They're like, no, just why? Why do you? And they just couldn't understand it. They were, yeah, are you, yeah. isn't, and they thought it was arrogant or too ambitious, or why cannot you can just choose one, right? And I'm like, no, I just enjoy both of it, and I'm trying to do it well. I put a lot of energy in it. But yeah, so in that sense, I think America has been really great, because if I'm excited about something, people will join. Mm-hmm. They're like, whoa, that's cool. Good for you. And maybe it fails, but it could work. Mm-hmm. Right? There's the chance of succeeding. That is the American dream, right? And in the Netherlands, that's not so much. It was really weird that I didn't have to pay for 2 studies. It was all free. I could do it. Mm-hmm. But they rather have me do 1. I mean, that's how I experienced it. Yeah.
I think a lot of people might have that attitude towards people, because people get, I wouldn't say intimidated, but if they can't imagine doing so much in their own lives, they feel like it's that you're at risk of burnout, or maybe it's out of concern a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, well, I remember my mom. They're the sweetest. I have really sweet parents. And I remember when I was 18, you don't have to go to university. You could just get a job. And I'm like, no, I need to do 2 studies. And she's like, no. Yeah, you can. We're proud of you, whatever you do. Right. And that's, in a way, it's very sweet. But somehow it brought out this like, I'm gonna do it anyway. Yeah. Because it's in my character. Yeah, it's really part of what I do. I like to combine all the different elements into one melting pot and meet a lot of people, and in different ways. And even though I'm not not a psychologist in America, even though I'm licensed in Europe, I still work with people with the mind, mm-hmm. right? So everything comes still handy to me. And I see it I don't see it as separate things. But yeah, I understand it. For people, it's easier to say, oh, she's a singer. But then I don't see myself as a singer. I'm more of a creator. But I mean that word now, everybody is a creator. Yeah. So that's a little iffy. But yeah, I just like experiences.
So Kenny Werner's Effortless Mastery, I read that shortly after it came out. How did you get to work with him?
So it was his his first semester he was hired, mm-hmm. And my last semester. And I'm sitting in a room and there's nobody there. And I'm like, aren't you famous? He's like, yeah, they give me times and space, but no students. They wanted him to be the director of the Performance Wellness Institute. Body mapping, yoga, Alexander technique, and qigong. They would meet every semester, I believe, and that was called the Performance Wellness Institute, mm-hmm. which later then changed its name to the Berklee Effortless Mastery Institute. So I was there from the very beginning, getting everything up and running. And then when my semester ended, I was done. They gave me a job because I gathered a community around him, and he got very famous. He didn't have an Instagram. He didn't have a YouTube. He barely had a website running. I did all that. For 9 years, I run his business, and that did mean that I didn't really run my business too. So honestly, that took a toll on me, and it was really clear that at some point I had to quit working for him. Okay. Yeah, because I mean, the concepts in the book are amazing, but they're not new, right? Buddhism was there all along. I didn't make anything up either. It's breath. We breathe and we connect with our body. It's just a way that it's taught that might be new, and it's very necessary. So for all these 9 years, I was strongly advocating for it, and very successfully. We grow. And then Berklee was like, oh, well, the classes are too full. Or you need to teach too. So eventually it became not an admin, it became a teaching job, and then it expanded. We wrote course proposals for his classes that are now credited, and we wrote like a minor, and it became a whole thing. Yeah, I strongly believe that we need to teach mindfulness stuff any way, any shape or form to people in the arts, because, or actually anybody, but it's so intensely connected to how you perform, because the way we feel, the way we perform. If we identify ourselves with how well we play and then we judge ourselves, that's not going to be good, right? The need to sound good gets into the way of sounding good. Are we really free of self-judgment? All these techniques are just basic cognitive behavioral therapy, right? If we recondition ourselves to just be here instead of here, yes, we can study the techniques. We know now where all the notes is. The question is, does it play itself? Can I just enjoy this on a deeper level? I don't want to know something. I want it to know itself. So I just want it to just come out. And we cannot have that for everything right at once, but we can work towards a situation where something really plays from that, if you will, space. Yeah, of no thought, of no, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, 9 years was rather long. The guy's a trip, but yeah, I decided to move my own way now. And that was actually the break point, was when my album with the women came out. I realized that, yeah, I was more of a feminist, and I you know, everybody has their own stories in ways you couldn't.
So now that you've been able to design your own courses, you talked a little bit about your approach. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, what I like is the holistic view. So in my course, I explain the basic premises of mindfulness, but I also explain the background. So we touch on a little bit of Tai Chi, Qigong, Buddhism. We talk about Eckhart Tolle. We talk about Thich Nhat Hanh, different ways of breathing. And then we play a lot. I have them play from a space, and then I make up exercises where they feel more free while they play. And, you know, we talk about how to be more effective, how to be more compassionate. Why, for example, there's one meditation in the Effortless Mastery book that by now I think is a little outdated, because in that time he wrote it, it was, you know, it was the thing. But it says, I am great, I am a master, which is actually, now there's been a lot of research on self-esteem, which is actually problematic, because self-esteem is being, oh, you're great, you got an A, everybody needs an A. And then what happens? If you're not great, you become mean, depressed, you are back on the couch, you're not supporting yourself or your peers, you're elbowing, you're a narcissist, but because I'm the best. So there's the whole self-esteem movement in this that started in the 60s has actually led to a society where everybody's just not caring for each other, right? And I don't think that has a place in music, because that's the opposite of what we want. I am great, I'm a master. I rather, instead of self-esteem, we should cultivate self-compassion. And this has been researched by professors like Kristen Neff, who's really big into mindfulness and compassion research. There is like research on this is way more effective, because after a while, self-esteem is failing, where self-compassion will say, oh, yeah, you want to be great, you want to be the best, you're not, that sucks, what can we do? Becoming your own best friend is way more effective than saying, I'm the best, I'm gonna kick myself under the butt, I'll work harder tomorrow, I'll add the extra hours, oh, I didn't practice today, I'll make up for it tomorrow, right? Just the whole pressure one puts on themselves because of self-esteem self-esteem cultivation, it's just so tiresome, and it backfires. It puts you back into like, because it's a zebra doesn't have ulcers, right? I had to read this book when I was studying psychology. It's called Why Zebras Don't Have Ulcers. Why? Because the zebra just runs. He sees a tiger or a lion, whatever it is, and he's just like, oh, let me better run. And then if he survives, he's not going to ruminate on it. He's not, oh, what if I ran faster? No, he's just going to be happy eating grass. He's not ruminating on the tiger. What do? We're sitting in a room, we're ruminating about a tiger, which is actually us, right? We're attacking our sense of self. So we're the tiger and the lion and the zebra at once, which is double the stress.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And
right, so that's my vision, and that's different than Kenny, honestly. Which is fine, because, he's an amazing player, and this book needs to be spread. But I think the nuance is that's after all my research in these things, that's my little twist to it, where I'm like, this is what I want to give everybody: self-compassion instead of self-esteem.
It's not a little twist. It's a big difference.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah, I'd forgotten that because it had been so long since I'd read the book, that thing about I remember cringing. And over these many years of dealing with performance anxiety and, all these issues, I've read so many books. And on this podcast, I've had a chance to talk to some of my heroes who really helped me. People like, Madeline Bruiser and Stephen Nachmanovich and Julie Line Lieberman and different people.
His book.
Yeah, it's just, and talking about these things. And many of these people are Buddhist, I've found, actually.
Yeah. I share their stuff during my classes because I want to have different languages available of the same thing, because there's no one way to get there. And the thing falls into place by itself. I cannot change anybody. I can guide them. I can coach them into, offering different angles, but they make the change themselves, because only then, also as a therapist, then it would be lasting, right? If they make the change, if they're like, my habit is because it was convenient in the past, right? It's a trauma that I have, therefore I have a certain habit or a certain behavior, and therefore I respond certain ways. That was really good because it helped me survive, right? The whole trauma response with Gabor Mate, I don't know, he talks about that a lot, the myth of normal. I mean, that stuff is magic. Saying that, thank you, my old habit, will actually give you a chance to say, I don't need you anymore. I had this drummer in my class. He was, drumming. And then at some point he told me that he was drumming and he heard these voices saying, well, you don't need me anymore. His bad thoughts, his little annoyance, right? They were saying, oh, I guess you don't need me anymore. Right? He had this superficial, and then he was, afterwards, he was like, I'm not crazy because I hear voices, right? And I'm like, yeah, no, this is great, because now you're free of it. You don't need to give in to whatever voice is in your head. They might be very real. Just letting go of that judgment of, oh, it's never going to work, or whatever people have for voices, right? That's not helpful. Is this helpful? No. Okay, then I'll take a breath and become a body instead of a mind. And then see if I play it. Go back to the music and see what feels good. Instead of saying, is this good? You could say, does it feel good? In order for it to feel good, it needs to be easy. In order for it to be easy, you might have to break it up. You have to do it slower. There's different ways to make it still feel good and have the thing happen, right? If it's brand new, it cannot feel good right away, but you could slow it down or break it up. Just do one note or one bar. Love Stephen Nachmanovich too. That stuff, right? Free play. The first step of Effortless Mastery is actually in Stephen's book. It's there, and Kenny is quoting him even in the book. So it's and then this other book, Barry Green, right, with the inner game of music. There's so many fantastic books. Why? Because we need it. The more, the merrier.
Okay, well, I want to thank you so much for this, and I'm wondering if there's anything I didn't bring up that you want to talk about.
I really enjoyed the conversation. Yeah, we went all over the place, and because normally it's yeah, I don't know. I feel that I do so many things, people get confused, but you were amazing in pinpointing all the different fields of my interest and noticing the holistic view of it. Right, because it's all connected in a way. It might, on the surface, might seem, oh, there's chocolate and there's there might be so many different things, but it is all connected in a way, right? Yeah, I think you did a great job, and getting me to talk about that.
Okay, well, I encourage people to order Current and your other albums and follow your work. Get on your email list. Yes. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
I hope you enjoyed this episode. Keep in mind, I've also linked directly several episodes you'll find interesting in the show notes of this one. Please do share this with your friends and check out episodes you may have missed at leahroseman.com. If you could buy me a coffee to support this series, that would be wonderful. I'm an independent podcaster, and I really do need the help of my listeners. All the links are in the show notes. The podcast theme music was written by Nick Cold. Have a wonderful week.